first time on the next big thing. Tom is our guest of honor. He's tech reporter with Cointelegraph, and he knows his stuff. We're about to find out how much he knows shortly when we dive into the heady worlds of NFTs, Metaverse, and various other bits and pieces of interest. Obviously, my colleague Scott is here, which you may have come across him already on our Telegram or Twitter. He's got his fingers in many crypto pies. I'm sure he'll share some of those slices of pies with us during this call. And then there's me, who's, well, you know, I write articles and find out what's going on and just try and enjoy the Christmas season. So there we go. That's my intro. Hope everyone enjoys the show.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And my name is Scott Tripp. I do the social media side of things, like Stuart mentioned, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the fun stuff, as well as YouTube videos of the daily news and other fun stuff. So I'm excited to be here today and excited to talk with Tom, and I'll just pass it off to Tom now.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Tom Farren. I'm a tech reporter at Cointelegraph, and I think it's my third time on the show, so it's always a pleasure coming back here and speaking to the guys and sharing developments and news that's happened in the market. It's always a fun thing.
Yeah, definitely. So what would be your first biggest update you think in NFTs, Tom, right at the moment?
Well, I think it's quite interesting at the NFTs and the Metaverse are kind of two converging sectors. And if we kind of think back to when crypto first started, it was really just crypto and blockchain. And then like NFT, and then DeFi came in, and then NFTs, and then we're getting all these.
Uh-oh. You might have froze for a second. There you go. You're back.
I'm back. Sorry. Yeah, so like they're really converging together, those two sectors, and I think it's quite interesting to see. So I think there's been a few things like Adidas. They partner with Bored Ape. And also G Money and Punk's Comics recently to kind of get started in the Metaverse space, and that was a really interesting thing. And I wrote a piece today actually about they're launching their NFT collection called Into the Metaverse, which is launching tomorrow. I think that's a really interesting thing because how Adidas have played it on the social sphere, especially on Twitter, where much of the crypto activity is held. They've done it quite well. They've kind of respected the existing culture that exists on there, and they've come into the space well in comparison to someone like Meta, who have came in and kind of trying to monopolize the conversation already, and people have been a bit deterred away from that already. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. As I said, they're launching the NFT collection tomorrow. I was actually talking to G Money today for the piece. He gave me a few quotes, and he was a great person to speak to. But I haven't got any alpha in terms of like the supply, which is pretty tight-lipped on that. They're keeping. I do know the price is 0.2 ETH, so I'll look to pick one of them up tomorrow, which is December 17th. Yeah, I mean, so that's on the Adidas side, and I think there's also the other competitor, which is Nike. I thought that was a really interesting introduction into the NFT/Metaverse space. With I don't know whether you saw, they purchased a company called Artifact. They're essentially like a digital sneaker company, and it was an undisclosed fee, but it's probably going to be in the tens of millions, if based upon what I know. And it's quite interesting because I actually spoke to one of the co-founders, Chris Lee, in early October, but we're talking before then, and we were talking about they recently dropped a collection of 20,000 avatars called CloneX, and that did really well. I was really successful. So I think Nike really, it was a good acquisition to get in off the back of that. So I thought that was quite interesting. Yeah, so there's been as you see more brands come into the space, I think people, traditionalists in the market could be quite afraid, or could be quite, they're coming in and feel like they're disrupting the space almost. And but there's ways to go about it, and I think the way that Adidas have done it, especially, Nike lower than those, but still commendable. For me, that's a much better entrance to make than someone like Meta, someone like I even think Pepsi. I don't think Pepsi did anything wrong, especially, but I just thought their NFT drop was a bit boring, if I'm being honest.
They sold out because of bots too. They didn't have that program very well, so bots were the ones that got. I think. Well, we don't know for sure, but there was a ton of applications, so regular people couldn't even get on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, quick question for you on that. Okay, because I was listening to the Bankless podcast the other day, and I was interested in the gaming world. Gaming communities have rejected NFTs as because they're kind of conservative, don't like the idea of introducing monetization of games. Do you think, in terms of Nike or Adidas's loyal customer base, do you think that's going to get any sort of backlash, or do you think it's going to really complement it?
I would say on the Nike and Adidas side, I think people are more receptive to it. Some of the gaming companies, I know, like Ubisoft, they did something and they just got hammered for it. So it's difficult. They're two different industries, really. That's like sportswear manufacturing, or clothing distribution, or whatever, and then that's more like gaming. And I think, and it'll look different for each one. So I think the Adidas will be just an access token to future physical and digital clothing drops or collectibles, whereas the gaming will be in-game in skins or weapons or collectibles or whatever game it is. So I think it depends, to answer your question, maybe on the existing community and how strong it is already, how loyal the community is already, how much of a how much of a connection they have to between brand and consumer already. Maybe you dictate that relationship going into the Web3.
Yeah, I just read an article yesterday about Bored Apes too, where they started their own NFT game. That's probably what you're talking about, right? Or they're starting the production of, or whichever. That should be crazy good for that.
Yeah, that was in the next iteration of the roadmap. I think they've got this. They've got the Bored Ape game, and they've got various other physical things, like I think they sent people skateboards and basketballs and various things with the roadmap. So that's an interesting,
Yeah, they even have a mansion that people can go to, private parties that they can go to as well, as long as you have the NFT, because I think they partnered with Sandbox, so they have land in Sandbox. So it's they're really creating a use case behind their NFT versus some of these other projects, which it's just a pretty picture in the end, right? So it's nice to see actual use cases tied behind an NFT.
Yeah, I think that's where we're going to progress to. I think when we had the crypto punks, users don't even have intellectual property rights of their actual avatar. And that came in with the Bored Apes. Now people can use the avatar to do whatever they want. They can license it towards another project. They can create a brand from it. And now we're seeing even more on that. It's just the NFT is an access token, as I said, to something else, to something greater, and it's kind of your pass to whatever they create.
Yeah, and who was it that there was a record piece sold on the Tezos blockchain just yesterday. It was a Whitney Houston NFT release. It was a one vault, they're calling it. It was a early 17-year-old Whitney Houston unreleased demo that they just released on NFT, and it was by, I forget the gentleman's name. He's really Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones was the one behind the project, and they just released that, and that I think it was just short of $1 million, but that's crazy. But I mean, again, another use case for something where these artists are able to go in and do something with it, right? I know she's not around anymore, but
yeah, exactly. They get the access to something. It's similar to the there was that story about the Wu-Tang Clan album. That was like last month, where somebody bought the album, it was never listened to or something. And I think, yeah, I mean, that's what NFTs can do, I think, you know.
yeah, it's amazing. And what's your favorite Metaverse project, do you think?
Metaverse project. I mean, to be fair, like, you can't, at the moment, you can't really look past the two big ones, Decentraland and Sandbox. They're just like so many partnerships as well, which is good. Like when people are buying land, they're also buying, you know, they're having a partnership with the Sandbox, and they can organize events in their space. They can do collectible drops, different things like that. So it's quite exciting on that front. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of different. I think like people are talking about Meta quite a lot as well. Their Horizon worlds and their Horizon office spaces. And from what I've seen, that I've talked to a lot of people. Some people quite influential in the crypto space, and they're quite concerned about the way that Meta are kind of going about that. And one actually,
yes. In what way are they concerned? Sounds interesting. What's their concern?
The idea is that I think that they think that this Web 2 company, these big tech giants who have established themselves quite rightly in the Web 3 domain, they're coming into the Web 2. They're coming into the Web 3 sector, and kind of if they bring those old ideologies and beliefs, you know, and they come into this Web3 world, then that could take away some of the core values of it. And someone actually said to me the other day, they said, you can't become a Web3 company if you don't establish a DAO. And that really got me thinking, because I was, you know, like, I think someone like Meta, who have established themselves trying to say, we're this Web3 company, we're futuristic, we're bold, we've got this vision of the future. But yeah, I would agree with that and say, if you don't establish a DAO and give the governance to the community and give them some sort of an NFT which gives them access to voting, access to decision making and other things, then you can't call yourself a Web3 company, because decentralization is one of the three pillars of this sector.
Even Sandbox came out. One of the creators of Sandbox came out and said Meta is going in the wrong direction, I believe, just recently too. So I could see like they kind of want to bring their monopoly into Web3, and good luck with that. It's not going to happen.
No.
I don't think they're going to have any way to do it, right? They can try, but it's never going to work out for them in the end, I don't think. I hope he comes in with a more decentralized thought process in his head, and he like changes his ideals or whatever versus what Facebook is now, right? Because there needs to be a change in the way things operate when it comes to this Web3 idea. Like, I get why they're doing it and why they're trying to make things different. I just actually did an interview with Human DAO. I spoke with them, and they bought Axie Infinity as part of their project, and they're getting people that actually work towards getting a scholarship or becoming a scholar with them, so that they can actually earn a wage using Axie Infinity. So they get the SLP as payment or whatever. And they said it's like $5 to $10 a day roughly is what a person would make in a wage, which isn't a lot in Canada or the US or the UK. But for somebody in India or the Philippines, $5 can make all the difference in the world for someone. So, I mean, I'm super impressed with the DAOs that are coming out and the way that they're starting to spread and actually help. And I'm super, super excited.
Yeah. And as you said, Axie has a lot of user base in South American countries. So I think, you know, where the wage is a lot lower than what we're used to in industrialized nations. So I think that could be a definite thing. And I think you mentioned about DAOs as well. constitutional DAO that made a lot of headlines recently, and obviously over in the UK. So I didn't actually cover that for Cointelegraph, but our US team did. But you'll probably be more clued up about that than me. But I think that was quite an interesting use case of how DAOs can come together. And I think it was the first DAO that was in Sotheby's. And it's an interesting thing how these communities can come together in this kind of army and just go after these.
Well, and it's funny because the person that ended up buying the Constitution did it in spite of Constitution DAO. They did it to prove a point that they wouldn't win or whatever. And he spent all that money on the Constitution. The guy that bought it, I forget his name. He's a bit of a different character, and he gave it away. And then, even though he spent more money than what they did, he donated it to a museum in the end, just to prove a point to the people that were bidding on it, like that he had better.
Wasn't that the guy with some hedge fund dude who's involved in the whole GameStop? Right.
Citadel, is that right? CEO.
Yeah, I believe so. I think you're correct. But that's silly. Like, that was such a pull of power. It made him look almost horrible in a way. Like, I don't know. When I heard that, I was like, why would you do that? Like, other than to prove a point, which he did, right? I think it's a wrong point to prove. You're proving that you have so much money that you can do this and kind of screw the little people, right? And not let them kind of win. And I know it'll come up again where there's another constitution or something that comes up where they have an opportunity to do something, I'm sure. But I mean, it's I just get a kick out of that. It's fighting back against what we're trying to form. And I mean, it creates a bigger army in the end. Him doing that creates more interest in the whole idea of it. So I'm more bullish because of him doing something so silly. So
yeah, I think it's only going to fuel the motivation of people, and if he's worried about a bunch of like degens just forming together and forming a DAO together, then it's in bigger trouble than I thought the banking system is.
Yeah, no doubt. And what are your thoughts on? Well, I guess the metaverse is a big thing, but I'm wondering who is going to be the first one to come out with a VR style game, because like Sandbox doesn't really have it yet. You have to log into the computer. Same with Decentraland. Like, I'm wondering who's going to be the first one to actually come out with a physical game to actually play in the VR. Like, I'll download it as soon as they do. But
yeah, that's interesting actually. I don't have a VR headset myself, so I don't know the main players in the game really. Like, I'd say, I mean, Oculus, I know Facebook on that.
Yeah.
What are the other, like, do you have a VR headset yourself, or what's the?
Yeah, I have an Oculus Quest 2 that I use. So, and I play with it, but it's short amount of time. They have a lot that they need to. I know there's a lot to improve on still. Like, it's sooner or later going to get down to just a pair of glasses that you're wearing and walking around in that will have the VR technology in it, the wearables or whatever, right? But I mean, it's interesting going into those spaces and meeting people and seeing stuff. My son likes logging into, there's a recreation place that you can go in, and as you're playing, you earn clothing and like hats or different apparel, and if you play certain games, you get more points towards certain things that you can buy in the game. So, and it's all about designing and stuff. But I think there's another one that Facebook really pushed this last little while. I've seen it. It's called Horizons, where they're saying that they're building worlds, thousands of different worlds. So I haven't actually gone in and logged in and tried to actually view it, but yeah, I've heard about it.
I saw reports some journalists spend a day, like 24 hours in the, with their Oculus on, and yeah, I don't think she had a bad time, but it still kind of felt like not something she'd want to do too often, put it that way, not like a regular thing. See, I think AR, augmented reality glasses are going to probably more practical just for a day-to-day for the average, because Yeah, like your when the Facebook brought out in combination with Ray-Ban, they brought out some glasses recently. I was asking the guy on Facebook, a European head, why doesn't it have some like crypto info? Because it's kind of a bit AR, and it's like, oh, not yet. I'm like, well, surely that's got to be a good use for it, and you can see the price of your Bitcoin going up and down literally in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
It'd be like going around, wandering around, catching Pokemon with your glasses on. Could you imagine? Or like walking around seeing dinosaurs everywhere. Is there people wearing digital clothes? Like you're talking about NFTs. Like you have a set of glasses on, but you see the real person, but you actually see the NFTs that they're wearing and stuff too. It'd be a different kind of environment to see. It would be cool when we get to that technology, and I'm sure it's coming soon enough with all these like quantum computers and AI. There's got to be something coming.
I reckon, long term, Adidas and Nike, you could see them, sponsoring a pair of those glasses because of the fact that, like you said, you got the digital clothing, the NFT. I could see that working, but when it's going to happen is another thing, obviously.
Yeah, we've got to wait for the technology.
And I think you mentioned, Stuart, seeing a piece about someone was reporting on the Metaverse. I actually seen a piece today, actually. I think it was this week. It was I'm just pulling it up here. Palmy Olsen, a reporter for Bloomberg Opinion, and she wrote a piece about going into I think it was Horizon. I believe, yes, it was,
Horizon, yeah.
And she took. I read the piece and it was quite interesting how she spoke about spatial and auditory kind of I don't know how to describe it. Security. She whether she felt safe as like being in that space, both spatially as people like come up to her or speak to her, and then you can like mute or block people. And it was her like experience just as a person first of all, and then being as a woman in that area, which is quite male dominated. It's quite interesting to see, and she said that Facebook don't really have at the moment, and I would imagine a lot of metaverse games or spaces don't really have a lot of security measures in place for like abuse or bullying or some those sorts of things on the platform. She was talking about that, and that's quite interesting. It's kind of a development what we see on social media, but kind of in a more physical format. And it just makes me wonder whether they've actually addressed that. Those things are just moving on to the next technology.
Well, they keep on trying to upgrade, but their meta release, like I've been in it, and it's horrible. Like I'll be honest with you, like even versus the other applications that you can get for free on Oculus. Their meta is horrible. You're this robot that has no legs or nothing like that, and you have your face attached to the robot, and that's it. Where if you go into these other places, you actually have a physical face you could design, and you could have clothes, and you could have whatever, right? And it's the same thing with Sandbox or Decentraland. And I actually, not financial advice, but I bought into Blocktopia because I like the idea of that, like the Meta Hero. The scanning abilities of Meta Hero, they're going to be coming out with their own metaverse here right away. They're doing a release where you got to have a certain amount of Meta Hero to actually own land in their metaverse. So I gladly bought into that early, so I have enough of that Meta Hero to actually buy a piece of land that I don't think I'll keep it forever, but we got a little bit longer. We got 10 more minutes, but it's just giving me a little bit of warning. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's one thing, isn't it? It's getting the whole virtual land side of things. Like you're saying earlier about the crossover with Bored Apes, and is it Decentraland where they're having events offline and online? Because it's like building a kind of exclusive community. That's one way to do it. I guess the thing is the metaverse isn't just one it's not Disneyland. It's lots of different spaces, and there's a lot of spaces that already exist. Communities online as it is. So, if nothing else, there's going to be a huge diversity of what the metaverse is as it evolves. That's for sure. I guess it's just how it's going to pay its way is always going to be one of the problems, and why likes of Meta are going to have an advantage just because they can pay for 10,000 developers in Europe, for example, which they announced.
Here, I got a question for both of you guys, and you tell me what you think about this, because I brought it up before to Vibin. But so my thought process on this the Web3 or the metaverse is, the one problem that we have right now is these companies like Sandbox, Decentraland, and other places still have kind of like a Web 2 attitude, where they're not really working together quite yet to bridge their projects. And I think with Web3, there needs to be more of a concentration on bridging together or working together than working apart from one another. You can't have that monopoly style attitude in a Web3 world. So I'm just wondering, like, what are your guys' thoughts on that part of it?
Hey, that's a big question. Well, I'll kick off. I used to work for Sony, but not for very long, just on a little project. And I know they had a bad rep in the past because if you ever read, there's a guy who's kind of, I think it's called Matthew Ball, I forget his name wrong, but he's written a lot about the metaverse. And he's gone into the whole, the problem with getting the metaverse going practically, like you're talking about, Scott, is that the companies are used to having their own little walled gardens, their proprietary systems, because that's how they make money. And that's why Sony for a long time didn't want to share, in the spoils, because it just thought, well, we're going to be like Apple, we're going to keep it to ourselves, and if you want to play, you can play with us, and you pay the money. So it's back end. There's a lot to be, there's a lot to consider on that side of things for sure.
Yeah. What do you think, Tom?
Well, yeah, I think in Web 2, there was definitely, as you said, the wall gardens, and everyone kept themselves to themselves. I remember back in the day, I bought my PlayStation 2, and I couldn't play my PlayStation 1 games on the PlayStation 2, even within the Sony platform.
Crazy.
I couldn't even play in the next iteration of the game on that platform. So I think there's quite a lot of that in Web 2, and you do see that. But in Web 3, you've got to have that on a corporate level. I don't think collaborations and partnerships will be plentiful. I think it'll be between people who know each other and they have tight communities of I know you, but it's not going to be across the corporate board. But I think in game for the user, there should be interoperability where you can be in the Sandbox game, and within 2 clicks you can be in the Decentraland game, or then you can hop out and be somewhere else.
Sorry for interrupting. Ali said, do you know what I think of when it comes to that interoperability is Wreck-It Ralph, when he escapes his video game and goes into the arcade world or whatever, the digital world, and can transfer between games. That's what I think the metaverse should be like, is you have one central station or whatever that's not controlled by anyone, where people could take their characters, their NFTs and all their stuff and transfer from one place to the other. Kind of like a big giant subway station, but
wow. Yeah, I mean, there's a scene in that recent film with Ryan Reynolds, Free Guy, where they actually have like a little place where everyone's just hanging out in their avatar. So funnily enough, that's a little bit like that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think it would be amazing to see, and then because then people like Sandbox or Decentraland or whoever aren't going to feel like they're losing their space, right? Because the people still own what they have in Sandbox. It's just in a different area. So they can feel like they're still making money, like they can go from one to the other and still hold on to their property, right? So that's what I hope for.
And I think like the issue maybe is that people like Facebook will get territorial and say, oh no, we want to keep people on our platform because they want to spend more money on our platform. So that's the only thing. But yeah, like in an ideal world, you would want that where it's user first, it's a consumer centric experience where they dictate their own experience and where they can travel to.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I truly appreciate you, Tom, and of course, Stuart, always. Thank you for coming into our space today and talking about Metaverse and NFTs. Like, it's evolving so fast, and it's amazing to think back. Like, when first NFTs came out, I was like, why would I want like this picture or whatever? Like, what good does it do me? But now to see where it's evolving in, it's so cool. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit here with us today. So
that's all right. No worries. It's happy to be here.
Yeah. Do you have anything in closing, Stuart?
No, I mean, the only thing that we didn't get around to on the NFT side of things was the little controversy about raising money for the Silk Road dude, Ross Ulbricht, because he did an NFT and then got a lot of flack from the Bitcoin maximalists. But that's a whole nother controversy for another time.
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll have to have another episode. Like, I love Tom's knowledge on NFTs and what's coming out. So I'd love to sit and visit again about this space. So I hope that you come into our space again.
For sure. Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, you guys. And well, thank you everybody for listening and watching us.
Thanks.
We truly appreciate you. So have a great day.